You are listening to the Doc Malik podcast. This show is 100% independent and fully funded by listeners like yourself. So, if you wish to support Ahmed in all that he is doing, then please subscribe to his channel on Spotify or his Substack. Or simply buy him a coffee with a one-off donation, links to which can be found at docmalik.com. Now, let's get on with the show.
So Rolla, listen, sister, I mean, this is actually really important. Like what you're doing, what I'm doing, it's an information war. I mean, I love the fact Netanyahu was saying, like, the biggest battle, the battle is on social media. And we need to buy TikTok and we're going to censor it. Forget the Chinese. Larry Ellison, my buddy, is going to censor for us and make sure all the good Zionist stuff comes out and all the pesky Palestinian love goes away. And the thing is, I'll be honest with you, I think the little Zionists are having a real headache because they're pumping all the money, the billions, trying to censor, propagandize, fund the influencers. and on the other side, you've got basically billions of people of humanity going, this is bullshit. This is evil. Our love is for the Palestinians. And not one penny, not one dime is being spent on propaganda on this side, you know, free Palestine. Whereas 100%. They're funding it to the billions and billions and they're losing. So what we're doing is important, isn't it?
100%. And actually, it's more than, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I respect and admire you thoroughly, as do a lot of your audience. So thank you. And I would say it's more than a headache for them. It is an absolute meltdown, and it's an existential crisis. Not even crisis. It is happening. Like they are completely going to be dissolving soon. And so you're kind of seeing these last kind of death rattles or whatever it's called of them literally saying, oh my gosh, if we cannot lie our way and propagandize our way through this anymore, we're going to have to buy all the platforms. And the fact that they're saying this so blatantly, we are buying TikTok, we are, putting Barry Weiss as head of CBS, we are like it's not even hidden anymore. They're showing how desperate they are, and they are trying to lean on the fact that they currently own all the institutions and have influence over all the main institutions of finance, media, and banking, and everything else. So it's very desperate, and this is them having a meltdown, and we love to see it.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. You know, I can tell you right now, in Zionist headquarters right now, someone is pressing a massive big red button going, anti-Semitic, you know, as they watch this podcast, like, Semitic, racist, like, yeah, whatever. Keep panicking. Nothing's gonna change. I mean, that's what they literally are all about. But listen, before we get into things like how I think Christian Zionists are the biggest threat to humanity, or, you know, the Hebrew language, and how so much of what Israelis do is basically fake as shit, and basically they appropriate other people's culture and then claim it to be their own. They also seem to be so confused about everything in the world. But I want to say one thing very quickly. Not all Jews are Zionists. I mean, there's a great comedian called Jonathan Randall. I've had him on my show. He is epic. And I think another thing that the Zionists are terrified about is Jews under the age of 30 are really waking up. They're like, this is shit, like not in my name. And the reality is that's what we need. We need people from within the tribe to speak up and say, no, don't call this in my name. Because the reality is the Zionists will throw them under the bus as well. That's what their mindset is like. They're not cool people. Anyway, what I want to ask you about is, let's go back in time a bit. So you came over to the US after the first Gulf War, 1990 to 1991. I'm just guessing. I have no idea. Were you like in Jordan or something?
Oh no, I was in Abu Dhabi. I was in the UAE.
So you're in the UAE. Your parents are Palestinians. They've clearly left Palestine after the Nakba or something. You guys are settled over there, and you went to the great Satan, America. Why did you guys go to America?
Yeah. So exactly. So my dad and his side of the family is from Shifa Amr, which is next to Haifa. And my mom's side of the family is from Jerusalem. And so it's not like they went and immediately settled in the UAE at all. As you know, like with the diaspora, like after being driven out, you're like, where am I going to go? So my dad's side of the family ended up in Lebanon. my mom's side of the family ended up from Kuwait to Saudi Arabia. And then my parents met outside in the diaspora. And then, obviously with all the opportunities that were happening in the UAE, my dad's like, hey, let's go to the UAE. And that's how I ended up in the UAE. And so after the first Gulf War, it was a scary time for a lot of people in the Middle East. Sorry, in West Asia. I keep having to correct myself.
I'm doing the same. I'm doing the same now. They don't like the fact the word West is in it. They want a monopoly on that West. Like West, everything West is us and it's amazing. Well, it's West Asia.
I mean,
middle what?
Yeah, exactly. 100%. And so in any case, yeah, I think as with a lot of, people in the diaspora, and I'm sure your family as well, it's like, hey, where are we going to go? Where's stable? Where's safe? So on and so forth, and so the US was it. I will say that, it is very distinctly traumatic and disturbing to be inside empire, as you are as well. But I think we have a unique position to use our privilege, our power, and our community to kind of fight from within. And we need people within and without the empire. And the last thing I'm going to do is use the privilege I have living in the US to just stay quiet and be complicit in the genocide of my people and in the terrorizing of the entire global South. So,
absolutely. And the funny, what I want to say is the reason why I said the Great Shaitan, the Iranians say that, like for most Arabs and Muslims, they don't look at America and the West as the big bad evil people. They don't want to wage jihad with them. They actually like America. They want to enjoy the quality of life in America and American culture. That's what I think. What I'm trying to say is the Christian apologists, the Christian Zionist apologists, the characters out there, the right-wing conservatives, they'll give you this impression that all Muslims are head choppers, jihadis, they can't wait to overthrow the West. And I always say, actually, guys, you're talking a load of shite. Basically, most Muslims in Muslim countries are thinking, right, should we go to the mall for dinner tonight? What are we going to eat? What are we going to have for just where the kids up to? Like, they're like any other family anywhere else in the world. They're not plotting jihad and the overthrow of the West. And your parents wouldn't have gone to America if they thought it was some big, bad, evil country. I think you're probably more politically activated and motivated than they are. They just want a quiet life and a good quality of life.
Yes, you're exactly right. Generationally, 100%. Yeah, I mean, you'll see a lot of the people of my generation's parents being the ones who changed the names of their kids. Thankfully, my parents didn't. But instead of Muhammad, let's call you Mo, or instead of Ahmed, let's call you Andy, or instead of and so all they wanted to do was assimilate, which I understand, because they wanted the safety, they wanted the security. To your point, they wanted the quiet life. But unfortunately, what we're seeing, and it's not just the Palestine issue. It's much, much greater than this. It is a power struggle for the people versus corporations, the 1% versus the rest of us. Capitalism, above everything versus people who just want, to be able to go to the doctor without going broke. So it's really that. It's not just Palestine. Palestine, yes, is kind of like, the core issue of the day, but the same root that is kicking out and killing Palestinians and happened for the 7 decades is the same root as the ones who divided, India and Pakistan, is the same root of ICE and the ICE raids that's happening now in the US and kicking people out of our community to countries they've never even lived in. So it's all the same thing, the same root as the ones who are selling you drugs that you don't need. It's the same root. It's all the same. It's all the same root.
Sister,
and so that's,
you nailed it.
Yeah.
So it's the same route that funded the East India Company. It's the same route that funded the slave trade. It's the same route that got expelled millions of Irish people and indentured slavery into America. It goes on and on. It's the same route. And you're right. While the Philistine cause is obviously right now forefront, you need to understand it's one aspect of the tapestry of this greater evil that's going on. And that's why this cause that's going on in the West Asia, when people say, "Oh, I don't know much about it. I don't understand it, so I don't want to get involved." That's a cop out. Actually, it is relevant to you, because what's going on there is a reflection of a much bigger attack on humanity. So, I'll give an example. For example, they go, "Oh, we don't want all these migrants coming into the West." Well, what's really, really clever about this evil root is they manufacture and destabilize the crises in West Asia and North Africa. They topple secular governments, democratically elected leaders, stable countries, bomb them to hell, bomb them to the medieval ages, install their own puppet fundamentalists. I love name changers, by the way. Jelani's got a new name. These name changers are everywhere. So, you got the Jelani now, head chopper in Syria, who, let's not go there. But basically, they basically traumatize all these people, uproot them, particularly the Christians. They've destroyed Christianity in its homeland, its birthplace, open the floodgates to the West, shove all these people over there for NGOs, UN plans and whatnot. And then they fund the opposition right-wing commentators who then say, "Oh, we don't want these bad Muslims in our country." Like, they literally fund both sides. Yep. The puppet masters. It's evil genius.
It's funny. It's evil genius until it's like all uncovered, and it's just so obvious. You know what I mean? It's very, very obvious. And I think the power that their narrative had, the power that their propagandist narrative had, was the fact that we couldn't speak to each other. The people couldn't share information as quickly and as astutely and as smartly as we can today because of social media. So because they literally had all power and influence over the media and what we are literally fed, it was so difficult for someone like me and you to share information. Oh, wait, did you know this? Did I know this? To not just share information, but to also double check ourselves. I love that about social media, is when people post things, everyone's like, "Hey, what's your source?" I love that. I love that question. What's your source? Because you're now making sure that the information that you are presenting is ironclad, is sourced, is based on fact, and is not just some propaganda mouthpiece, brought to you by, CNN and, whatever, big pharma. Like, so I think that this is what they didn't account for. I think that they didn't silence us quick enough, and they didn't silence us on social media specifically, and they weren't able to shadow ban us as harshly as they wanted to, because it's literally inevitable. We are just sharing information with each other, and this is what is completely destroying their propaganda and their narrative. And so now that they can't now that they can't use the same old tactics, they're like, well, now we have to buy all these platforms that they're all communicating on. We have to buy TikTok. We have to buy, it's just ridiculous. And they're just saying it. That's my issue, is it would be evil genius. I think it's just evil at this point. It's not genius at all. You're telling us what you're doing.
It's so brazen, so brazen. So listen, one of the things I want to do is I want to go back a bit. So one of the things you hear, one of the biggest things that makes me laugh is whenever anyone comes out and goes, I'm all for Judeo-Christian values, and I'm like, oh, hold on a sec. So like, let's make a little chart here with Jewish, Christian, and Muslim. Do you believe in Mary being a holy figure? Jews, Christians, Muslims, yes. Do you believe in the virgin birth? Jews, Christians, Muslims, yes. Do you believe that Jesus was the Messiah? Jews, and Christians, Muslims, yes. Do you believe he died on the cross and was resurrected? Jews, Christians and Muslims, yes. Do you believe he's up in heaven? Jews, no, he's boiling in excrement in hell. Christians and Muslims, he's in heaven. And is he going to come back? Jews, because he never came in the first place. And Muslims, yes. And I'm like, so hold on one second. Where are the Judeo-Christian values here? But anyway,
you know what it is? You know what? It's anti-Muslim. That's the value. That's the only value. And that's also, for instance, what the Hindutva, is like, share with Israelis, share with the Zionists. That's all it is. It's like a Judeo-Christian value. The only value is to be anti-Muslim, and that's it. That's truly it.
But isn't that a good thing? Because listen, let's admit one thing, right? All Muslims have monobrow, particularly women. They've all got beards, women included. They're all rapists and misogynists. They're all sexist. I mean, they're Neanderthal. They're barbaric. They don't value women. They don't respect women. They have no culture. They've got no food. They're just not nice people. I mean, they've even probably got bad body odor. I mean, that's the problem with Muslims, isn't it?
Muslims were the one who created like soap and perfume, so and we're the only ones who, wash our bums, so I don't know. Maybe. Sorry to be crass, but
I'm just saying that the power of propaganda.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. I'll say a few things. First of all, you're absolutely right about, hey, the belief systems in the religion of, Judaism versus Christianity versus Islam. It doesn't actually matter. I think the point is, it doesn't matter what each believes, right? It's not like we're saying, oh, Jews are bad for not, the Judaism is a, not a good religion because it doesn't believe in Jesus. What you are saying is it's just hypocritical. You're not saying, oh, they should. And you're not saying, oh, see, we're good because we do as Muslims. You're saying, do you understand how hypocritical you are? Because if you are using faith as a reason for all this violence that you're doing, if you are using faith, then you are a hypocrite. Because if you are using faith, technically, the faith of Christianity and Islam is much, much, much closer and have much more common than Judaism. Again, the idea isn't to use faith for any of this, because religion is something spiritual and something community-based and shouldn't be used politically and shouldn't be used to, justify a freaking genocide or anything else. So,
absolutely.
But yeah.
Absolutely.
And if I may say one last thing, actually, this is important maybe for our audience to note. I am, so my dad's side of the family is Christian and my mom's side of the family is Muslim. And yes, I was raised Muslim as well, but I was also raised, literally celebrating Easter, going to my cousin's communions. We celebrate Christmas every year. So there is also this hypocrisy of you saying of them saying, they Judeo-Christian values, and yet you do nothing for the Christians in Palestine or in Lebanon or in Syria or in anywhere else. You don't care. You only care about white power. That is all you care about. We are white. We are anti-Muslim and we have power, and we want to keep it that way. That's all they care about.
Yeah. Well, I don't, just in case anybody's listening, and Rolla, you don't know this, but I was a Muslim for 30 out of my 50 years. The last 20, I just believe in God. Keep it really simple.
Yeah.
So there you go. And you know what?
Yeah.
Growing up and, being born in Scotland, I can tell you right now, we celebrated Christmas, like not religiously, but we had our Christmas tree and our presents and everything. It was just as big as it was for Eid. And my dad said, look, it's Jesus' birthday. Like, Jesus is important. And we're like, okay, all right. And the funny thing is, like, having been brought up as a Muslim for, and practicing for 30 years, I met thousands of Muslims. And, what struck me was how much respect there was for Judaism in the Quran.
Yes.
And so much. And and the Jewish people of the book, like, I never once heard anyone say anything bad about Jews ever.
Dude, excuse me, my uncle's name is Moses. My uncle's name is Moses. Like Musa, Sayyidina Musa, the prophet Musa. Like, it is so crazy to me, this conflation. It is crazy. It's actually psychologically sick to conflate Zionism with the religion of Judaism. It is sick. And to be honest, even with the creation of the Israeli flag, it was all intentional, because what they wanted to do is not just have a nation, for Jews. They wanted a nation for Zionist Jews all over the world. It is the only country like that. For instance, Iran doesn't claim to be the only country for Muslims. It claims to be a Muslim country. And we can go back and forth about whether, having an ethno-religions, country in 2025, is the right thing to do, so on and so forth. But my point is, it is intentional. That Star of David is intentional on that flag because they want to invite this sick conflation between Zionism and Judaism and muddying the waters. And then so if anyone now is against the government of Israel or the colonizing state of Israel, all of a sudden they can say, oh my gosh, are you against Judaism? Are you anti-Semitic?
Bingo.
Like, it's disgusting. It's so obvious. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's like I can be critical of the Chinese government and no one would say, oh my God, you hate Chinese people. Like that would be such a ridiculous statement. Like, no, I'm critical of the Chinese government. Well, what the hell is that got to do with Chinese people? Or, it could be the, New Zealand government. I hate the New Zealand government. Oh my God, you hate all New Zealanders? And like, no, like what? Like, why are you saying that? Like, no.
100%.
No.
Or saying I hate the Italian government is right wing now and da 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 da. You hate Catholics? What are you talking about? Like, get over yourself. It's so obvious. It's not even worth, to me anymore, it's not even worth saying. Like, I think at the beginning, years ago, I felt always compelled to say,
yeah, of course.
Hashtag not all Jews, hashtag not all this, not all that. It's like, you're playing into this sick conflation that has nothing to do with anything. So they put you on the back foot immediately.
Yeah.
And it's
Amen.
just not going to work anymore. It's not going to work anymore.
I'm the same. I'm not playing with this bullshit. I'm not like, not all like this. And, it's not, and that, having to like make, caveats and exceptions and disclaimers. No, they've got you already. It's like bullshit. I should be able to criticize the Israeli regime and the government. That does not mean that I hate all Jews. And if you're going to turn that around at me, fool on you. I mean, it's just so goddamn ridiculous. But anyway, I want to come to a really important point, right? So a lot of people, all these right-wing commentators, all these Zionist shills, taking the money, and they're not doing it because they genuinely believe, by the way. It's because they're getting paid a lot of money. So they go 100%. And they get, some of them have got English accents, and they go, oh, well, Israel, we need to stand by our ally Israel and the Jews in Israel, and anti-Semitism is on the rise, and blah, blah, blah. And they've got all these Arab lands. They can go all over to those Arab countries. Israel is this tiny, tiny little tiny country, like a postage stamp, just a tiny place for teeny weeny place for Jews. And like the Muslims, they can go anywhere they like. They can go all these places. Let's clear one thing, Rolla. Palestinians are very different ethnically, DNA-wise, from, for example, the Gulf Arabs. Oh, they make me shudder. Sorry, I didn't mean that. But like, like
I know your aversion, we must say, is to the leaders and the government of these countries.
The absolute scumbag leaders, right? So what I'm trying to say is, like the countries, North African Arabs are very different genetically in makeup to, for example, Palestinians. And just because they speak the Arab language and just because predominantly they're Muslim doesn't mean they're all the same. Can you please confirm that?
Oh my gosh, of course. I mean, I don't, first of all, 100% they're not the same. I mean, they're different culturally, they speak different dialects. And more importantly, they've been on that land for centuries. That is their home. That is the most important note. Forget about DNA for a second. I scientifically, I don't want to go into like, scientifically, because that, again, that's another rat hole they want us to go to, because they try to say that, Judaism is not a religion, like it has been for centuries. Now all of a sudden Judaism is a race, an ethnicity. Are you on crack? Are you telling me that Ivanka Trump is now all of a sudden, because she converted, she's like, she has, some sort of DNA that makes her, have, ability to go to that land, and me and my family have zero right to go back? Like, that's, you already, on its face, it's ridiculous. But I will say that it is our home. It's been our home for centuries. And that's the most important reason why we don't want to leave. Well, it's not because we feel it's in a book. It's not because we say in the Quran, this is ours. It's not because, just like the Jewish people in Europe, in Central and Western Europe, did not want to leave their homes. Did they want to leave their homes when they were getting kicked out and expelled and driven out of the UK and everywhere else? Imagine if the reason why they got to be kicked out is because, the British people have DNA that says that we are more connected to this land than you. It's ridiculous. It's disgusting. So the reason why Palestinians do not want to leave is because that is their home. And just because someone speaks the same language in another country doesn't mean that all of a sudden you can get kicked out of your home and go somewhere else. And also, I must say that a huge majority of Israelis are dual citizens. To your point, there's a reason why they have British accents and American accents. There's a reason why Netanyahu went to school in Philadelphia with rapper Little Dicky, like, or the same high school that Little Dicky went to. Like, there's a reason. You know what I mean? If you want to use that frame of mind, you can then say, well, literally, Jews are more protected in New York than they are anywhere else, let's say, or in the United States or in UK or Canada or Australia. Like, go there, quote unquote. You know what I mean? It's just so stupid. It's so stupid, and it's so, in my mind, Orientalist. So
It is Orientalist, and it's a very good point. You know, you're talking about Benjamin Michalowski or whatever his name is.
yeah, Milikowski.
Yes, Milikowski. What the? Another name changer. I love name changers.
Yes,
I mean, you made me think. Maybe I should have been called Andy Malik. You know, I never thought of that. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the thing. And name changes, to your point, like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure your audience might know, but, like, I mean, this whole idea of changing names is actually really, really interesting, because not only once the Zionists like took over the land of historic Palestine, they changed the names of every single one of those cities to be Hebrewized, because they want to erase any kind of evidence of existence of Palestinian cities or towns or anything like that. But they also changed their own names because they don't want to have that connection with Europe and Russia and everywhere else. So every single prime minister, I'm almost certain every single prime minister of Israel since the beginning of that, colonizing state has had their name changed.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, I just need to press the anti-Semitic button. So basically, like you're very anti-Semitic. Don't you know that was a land for a people where there was no people? Remember, it was an empty
a land for a people without a land.
Yeah, for people without a land.
They're good with slogans.
Yeah, there was nothing there. They had no land. They came along. There was a land with no people. They went, great, perfect, we'll take it. Like. That's it. So, like, they didn't even change names of cities and towns that didn't exist. See, you're being anti-Semitic, suggesting otherwise. It was empty. It was just sitting there waiting for them. You know, like
100%. Yeah. It's not like they drove out and 750,000 people. It's not like they had over 500 villages wiped out. It's not like they had massacre over massacre. You know what the crazy thing is? Again, they all know this. Why do they know? They knew it wasn't a people without a land, because literally that was one of the big problems they were trying to solve. What do we do with the, quote, Arabs that live on this land? What do we do with them? Yeah. That means there were people there, but they didn't consider what? Arabs people? Only they are people because they're European?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, remember, like when you sell a house, you have like signboards outside for sale, for let. Like, apparently, the problem with Palestine, it was like they had signboards saying, please occupy us. Like, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Please,
we were begging for it.
We were begging to be occupied. Occupy us, please, and drive us out of our lands, burn our villages, rape us and force us out, and then put us into little ghettos and concentration camps. Yeah, that's what we want. Yeah, freaking unbelievable. But anyway, so now we've ascertained. I mean, some people would argue that the Palestinian people are the original Jews that later on converted to Christianity and Islam. A lot of the Jews that came over are, Ashkenazi European Jews. They're white for a reason. They're white.
Yes, 100%. They're Europeans. In fact, they consider themselves that. See, this is the thing with Zionism. It's so insidious. Now, of course, we're much smarter, but they change the narrative depending on, the trend of the day and what they think will work to, convince and influence people to keep this colony charade going. So before, it was very clear that this was a colonizing effort. You see it in the, World Zionist Organization language and all of their documentation. You see it in literally, organization called PICA, which is, Hebrewized name for the colonization of Palestine organization. Even in the, their cookbooks, like for the World Zionist Organization, they had a cookbook called How to Cook in Palestine that was, I think 1930, I forget when it was published, 1930s. In it, They call themselves European and they call the Palestinians natives. They knew it. They know it. But then now that colonization is, quote, kind of gauche, kind of like not very popular anymore. They see that this, quote, land back and indigenous narrative is being popularized is the wrong word, but is something that the world is being awoken to. And so like, oh no, now, sorry. This is a land back thing. We've been here 3,000 years. It's like they weren't using that for a few decades. You know what I mean? They're using the colonizing. We need to colonize because X, Y, Z. So I'm just saying, like, it's obvious they keep changing their narrative. And this whole we are indigenous is hilarious to your point, because they all just came from Europe. So I don't know what you're indigenous to, but it's definitely not
I know.
Palestine.
Can you imagine a bunch of people in Papua New Guinea, like this tribe, right? And they suddenly come onto the mainstream media and go, our book says that we're the chosen people. And we're like, oh, okay. Our God says Papua Guineans are chosen. And if you disagree with it, you're a Papaginist. And then you're like, oh, what? Like, you're anti-Papaginist. And you're like, oh, what? Like, what? And we've been told by God that we're going to take this land. And you're like, what? That's not your land. Yeah, doesn't matter. We're taking it because our little book here said so. Like, anyone else who would say that, you would just think they're barking mad, you know?
Yes, 100%. And guess who said that they were barking mad, if I may say, when I say the founders of Zionism, when they first founded Zionism in Europe, the people who most thought they were mad was other Jewish people.
Yes.
It was a very, very fringe, very niche, very considered kind of not even fantastical, but it was actually considered crazy. And most of the Jewish population in Europe, either wanted to assimilate, and let's be honest, it was difficult because it was very, very difficult because there was very, very rampant what is now called anti-Semitism. I'll talk about that term in a second, but let's just say anti-Judaism and anti-Jewish sentiments. So they were being very, very, I think, unfairly and viciously and awfully, how do I say, oppressed. Treated, oppressed. It was very obvious. So there's no doubt about that. But what they wanted more than anything was either A, to be accepted into European society, or B, to go to America. Like that is what they were looking for. They were looking for being part of a community. They wanted to be part of a fabric of society. They wanted to contribute. They wanted to grow. They wanted to, be economically mobile. That is what they wanted, and that is what they deserved. What they did not deserve was Zionism. It is the most, again, this term, anti-Semitic. If you hear the language of the founders of Zionism and how they talked about Judaism, they thought people who were Jewish were, because, they were famously atheist, right? The Zionist founders. They thought people who adhered to the Jewish religion were weak. They thought they were sick. They thought they were measly. They thought they were inferior. And they use that language very, very, it's like you can look this up on any of your favorite reference, right? Like, I'm not making this up. And so my point is to say the crazy thing about Zionism, it's very much one of the most anti-Semitic ideologies. And you can see that even now.
Well, we had a Jew, Dan Cohen, say this on the podcast. He said to me, Ahmed, there's nothing more anti-Semitic than being told that I will never belong to the US, that even though I was born here, I'm not American, this is not my home, and that my home is thousands of miles away, where I don't want to live and I've never been to, but apparently that's the only place that can never be accepted. That's fundamentally anti-Semitic. It's, for example, like, I was born here, like in the UK. Like, if someone says, this isn't your home, you don't belong here, you need to go thousands of miles away to Asia, I would like, shut up. Shut the F up. It's just bullshit. It's so racist, And I do actually occasionally still get some people say, oh, you should just go back home. I'm like, where exactly is home? No. Yeah. And it's fundamentally, it is racist. But, it's funny. I had another guest on my show. His podcast is coming out tomorrow. Anthony Samaroff.
Mm.
Now he's Scottish as well. He's from Edinburgh, and he was oh my god, he was quite nervous about saying this. But he just came out of it. He was very passionate, and this is what I mean. There are good Jews out there. Now I think he's more kind of like agnostic Jew now, but he was like, Ahmed, I hate to admit this, but Jews love the Holocaust. Like we love being the victim. We love like look how oppressed we are. We're terrible. He goes like, you know what? And it's all to fabricate this idea that we're hated. And he goes, you know what? I've traveled the world now and realized actually no one hates us. Like we're just creating this. And I think the Zionists did this mindset because like you said, most Jews in mid 19th century Europe were really quite comfortable. They didn't want to go to West Asia. They're like, what? Right. The Ottoman Empire? Like, what the hell are you talking about? They were doing, you know, Mozart and, you know, classical music and opera and God knows what else. And they were assimilating. And then suddenly a bunch of fringe people, like you said, came along and said, no, you don't belong here. You need to move. You need to move. Mm-hmm. And they were very reluctant. And it was a problem for the early Zionists. And they almost had to engineer a scenario that would force the Jewish population to flee outside of it, outside of Europe to you know, the West Asia. But the funny thing is, they talk about Israel being the home of the Jews. Why are there still so many Jews then outside of Israel, if that's the case?
Yeah, I mean, great question. Also, to your point, the thing about the founders of Zionism is not only was it such a niche thought, right? An ideology, sorry. But also they didn't really get their story straight at the beginning because one of the, you know, historic Palestine wasn't the only place that they were thinking that would be, you know, the land for the Zionist entity.
I know.
Uganda, Argentina. I mean, you know, it's like, so you're literally trying to convince a group of people, right? Madagascar, 100%.
Madagascar.
So, I mean, they didn't even have their story straight. And they're like sitting here trying, you know, to like, you know, throw pasta at the wall and just like, how about this? How about that? Like, what colonies that Britain owns currently that they can give us? What can they give us? What can we get? And so, of course, like the majority of the Jewish population were like, are you fucking psychotic? Like, I don't want to go there. Why? And they had no connection to it. And so, so it took a while to figure out how to manufacture this narrative. And I have to say, I understand what your guest was saying, and obviously he's Jewish, so he definitely gets to say whatever he wants, and has a privilege to do so, especially when he talks about him and his people, and his religion. But I will say, I want to say that for me, the way that I word it as myself is that it's not that a group, it's not like Zionism loves the Holocaust, or maybe they do, but all is to say that it really did feed into this narrative, and it really did be that final kind of push to be like, you know what, you see, like we said, this is why we need this place. So,
but isn't it funny? If, let's just say if we take the Holocaust for what it was, I'm just saying if, so you get persecuted in Europe by a bunch of white Europeans, and your answer to that is to go colonize some people in West Asia, some brown people who did nothing to you, 100%. And then traumatize and persecute them.
100%.
So you turn from abused to abuser. Like, where 100%. Have we seen that before? Like,
dude, 100%. But and I mean, that's what America did, right? We're, you know, the American, we're Europeans, we're being persecuted for our religion. Let's go to America and let's kill every single indigenous person we see, and then stick the rest in. Yeah, I mean, it's the same.
Super insightful consultation, and Doc M came into it with an incredible amount of information and support. I really felt he was there to help, that he cared, and that he genuinely wants the best for you. Can't recommend him enough. Thanks again, Doc. From Dave. And folks, if you want to see 40 other reviews, 5-star reviews, just visit my website, docmalik.com, and you can look at in the menu consultations, or go directly to the booking page, docmalik.setmore.com. Book a consultation with me. If you're unsure about how to move forward with a diagnosis, with a treatment plan, or you feel like you're stuck in a rut, you don't trust your doctor, you've had surgeries and pills, and you've got side effects, whatever it might be, I can help you. I can act as your advocate. I can help you work the system to your benefit, knowing what questions to ask and to explore options that the mainstream doctors might not have covered with you. Folks, if this resonates with you, please book a consultation with me, and I can't wait to help you. Back to the show.
You know, it's
You know, and it goes
disgusting.
it even goes further back. So people talk about, you know, Christianity being this European religion. No, it's not. No, it's not. Christianity is a West Asian religion. It's completely non-native to Europe. Europe had Celtic religions, pagan religions, Gnostic belief systems. Like, they had a completely different indigenous belief system and cultural values. And then Christianity came and imposed a completely alien concept, Abrahamic God, Abrahamic prophets from West Asia onto Europe. And it destroyed like all of that indigenous culture, you know, their arts, their history, their archaeological stuff. It was all destroyed. Some of it is left standing, but it was erased. You don't understand. There was a genocide of European culture.
Yes.
And then they took on Christianity, and it's like that abused mindset was still there in the DNA, because then they went off to America and did the exact same over there. So I know you're talking about the pilgrims being persecuted. It was even more than that. European culture, indigenous culture was genocided, and a foreign entity was put in its place called Christianity, which then they then went off and did their business. And it's a kind of domino effect. That's what happens.
Yeah. 100%. And I heard someone say this, so I can't take credit for it, but it's like, oh, the earliest culture appropriation was appropriating Christianity from being, you know, from Bethlehem being kind of like the center of Christianity, let's say, you know, where Jesus was born, to somewhere in Italy. Like, how did that happen? How is all of a sudden, you know, Jesus white and, you know, Italy the center of Christianity? Like, what are we doing here? And so, but it all feeds into this.
They have got good food. I do love nice pizza. But anyway, let's do a little chronological history lesson, because what frustrates me is when I hear from people who go, oh, I the slightest mention of Gaza and the genocide or whatever, they go, oh, I don't want to say anything because I don't know anything about the topic. Like, it's really complicated. Like, I just think that's a cop out, right? One, it's not complicated. Two, a cursory scratch of the surface will reveal the truth. And it's just like, you just don't want to go there, because you're either scared that actually taking a side on the right side will get you into trouble, which it does. It does. You'll get censored, cancelled, name called. So you're terrified of that, the repercussions. So you know what? You're just going to say, oh, I don't know. I don't want to say anything. It's complicated. But let's go back a bit. So like Zionism and even the Star of David, I mean, everything's artificial construct. That hexagram or whatever it is, I mean, that's from the Rothschilds. And the Rothschilds have had their sticky little fingers on the state of Israel right from the get-go, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, in fact, the Balfour Declaration, which was, you know, obviously 1917, which was the kind of promise of Britain to the Zionist movement, saying, hey, we promise you historic Palestine, that was written to Lord Rothschild. So, I mean, it's not a conspiracy theory. It is that it's there in front of our face. So,
but the Rothschilds even funded migration of Jews from Europe to Palestine, I think in the 1800s, by the way.
yeah, I'm sure. It's very obvious is my point. Like, it's not like you literally, why in God's name is Lord Balfour of Britain writing a letter to Lord Rothschild saying, we promise you Palestine? Like, why? You know what I mean?
A land that wasn't his to people who had no claim over the land. I mean, just think about that. So again, the Papua-Guineans are saying, we're going to give this piece of land that we don't currently own to you, even though you don't deserve it, and we're just going to leave it the native people. I mean, it doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, 100%. And it is, and it's crazy because I want to go back to something you said, which is when people say, oh, it's too complicated. What I think they're really, you know, oh, the issue is too complicated. What I really think they're saying is my feelings are complicated about it. Because what I think they're really saying is, this is what I think. I think what they're really saying is, as a human being, I see that this is wrong. I see that blown up, children on my screen day in and day out, mothers holding their kids in literally a grocery bag because of how pulverized they are. I know as a human being this is wrong, but my complicated feeling is the fact that for decades I have been pushed this fear of me saying anything because then I will be deemed anti-Semitic. That is really what they are saying. I don't think they're saying that the issue is complicated. I think they're saying their feelings are complicated about it because of how obviously awful this is, and they're trying to now conflate that with but I've been told this for decades, and if I say anything, I don't want to be seen as a bad person and as being anti-Semitic.
Yeah. So just going back to the Rothschilds. So there were waves of pogroms in Eastern Europe and Russia between 1882 to 1903, and many Jewish families sought refuge in a new homeland, and some of them moved to the Ottoman Empire. It's really funny that, isn't it, that after the Spanish Inquisition and all that kind of stuff, Spanish conquest and what was going on in the pogroms, the Jews felt they were safe to go to Muslim-held lands. That's really interesting. Because the Muslims hate them and want to chop off all their heads, but for some reason they felt like,
oh my God, I hate that. I hate that narrative, dude. I hate that narrative.
But you know what it is? Like, they hate the Jews. They want to destroy all the Jews. But your Jewish ancestors went to all the Muslim countries for refuge.
100%.
How bad 100%. Was it? And then they go, no, but we were treated like second-class citizens. We had to pay a tax, and we had to do this, we had to do that. But there were millions of you there and thriving and being very successful, and you weren't being genocided. Anyway, so then basically they weren't very good at agriculture in West Asia, and their colonies failed. But there's a guy called Baron Edmond de Rothschild. He lived from 1845 to 1934. He was one of the French members of the Rothschild banking dynasty, and he became a major patron of the Zionist movement, and he began financing settlements from 1882 onwards, and he heavily invested in land, agricultural development and infrastructure, and he personally himself funded more than 30 colonies, and they were known as Ha-Nadiv Ha-Yadurai, the known benefactor. So he bought land, and especially through agents, bought lands from absentee Ottoman landlords. And that was kind of like by hook and a crook. And, he basically took people's lands just because they were absent for whatever reason. He brought in modern farming techniques. He established wineries, all that kind of stuff. And basically, he was one with the Balfour Agreement. His son, James Armand de Rothschild, continued the work and played a really important job lobbying the British government to do the Balfour Declaration. And they've also been associated with the Palestinian Jewish Colonization Association. It's really funny. They say there's no such thing as Palestine, but they call it the Palestinian Jewish Colonization Association.
That's what I'm saying. That was PICA. That's the one I talked about before. They literally called themselves colonizers. That's what I'm saying. They knew they were.
They knew they were. So these are colonizers who've come over or taken the land. And then the next thing they say is at this time of independence, they go, all the Arabs rose up and they wanted to destroy us. When actually the truth is the Druze, the Shias, the Sunnis, the Christians, they all came together and said, look, can we just have one land, Palestine, for all people and all religions? And the Zionists were like, nope, this is a Jewish state for us. And everybody was like, well, that's kind of not fair. And they're like, tough. And they're like, oh, come on. Let's just all be one happy big family. And the Zionists were like, fuck off. This is a Jewish state, and that's the way it is. And the other people were like, well, we're not fucking having that. It's Palestine for all of us. And that's where the conflict came out of. Am I right?
Yeah. 100% you're right. That's actually exactly what happened. And the one with, the Western imperial funding and power won. And that's really what happened. The other thing I will say is I literally challenge any one of your audience members who might be, let's say, on the fence at all, whatever country they're in, whether they're in Scotland, whether they're in, I don't know, California, whether they're in anywhere. I challenge anyone to say, you know what? I'd be totally cool with giving up half of my country for no reason. Why? Why would you ever do that? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, imagine if Zionists came to Scotland and are like, you know what? We're going to take half of this and you better be cool with it. Because if you're not, then you're anti-Semitic, or whatever it is that they actually said at the time. It's ridiculous. No one would be okay with it. No one. I don't care who you are. By the way, no one would be okay with it in your own home. Forget about a state. Let's say someone came in and said, right, I'm here. I knock on your door. I'm like, I'm going to take your kitchen, your master bedroom, a bathroom, and half of your yard.
And share your wife. And share your wife.
Yeah. And then you'd be like, no. Like, are you anti-Semitic? It's like, dude, no, it's my home. Like, what are you talking about? And even more importantly, what you were saying, if I can tell your audience, you probably, I don't know if I told you this, but your audience might not know, but before Zionism, like you said, Palestine was a land for all three Abrahamic religions. It wasn't a homeland. It was a holy land. It was holy. And when my grandmother was living in Jerusalem at the time, she would tell me, like, literally, it was almost like to her, like utopia, like paradise. She tells about, like, she was Muslim, right? My Christian neighbors, like, we'd celebrate holidays with them. We'd babysit our Jewish neighbors' kids. Even, I mean, TMI, but like some of my family members on the Christian side were circumcised by rabbis. Like, this is what I'm saying. It was more than tolerance. It was more than assimilation. We were a community of people. We were a holy land. We didn't think that the land belonged to one religion. And that is what we are against. We don't want Palestine to just be Muslim. We don't want Palestine to just be Christian. And we certainly don't want Palestine to just be Zionist and Jewish. We don't. We want it to be for everyone. We want it to go back to being a holy land for everyone and not a homeland for one.
Bam! Anti-Semitic.
Dang, I did it again.
Anti-Semitic. You just can't help it. Everything that comes out of your sweet little mouth is anti-Semitic. Rolla.
Jeez. Is that crazy? Is that crazy, man? It is crazy. It's crazy that, yeah. I mean, I'm sure you've dealt with, I'm right, like in your career, in your lifetime, like I'm sure you've dealt with being called anti-Semitic as well.
I've been called everything. I've been called everything. I've been called a white supremacist. I've been called a nigger.
A white supremacist?
Yeah, trust me. Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah. I've been called a chinky. I've been called a nigger. I've been called freaking everything. I've been called anti-Semitic, transphobic. I mean, like, the list is long. Anyway, so like back to. Yeah, I mean, this is really important what you're talking about, because it's relevant to now. Because today, I say the solution is so easy. Like when people say to me, "Oh, it's very complicated. The solution is very complicated. We need a two-state solution, or we need to find some solution." No, the solution is so freaking right there in front of you. You have one land. You can call it whatever the fuck you like. The United States of Palestine and Israel, if that's what your fancy is, or make something else up. I don't give a shit. Right? And you basically decentralize. I hate government. Decentralize, small. No national religion, no national ethnicity. It's a land for all people. So you know what? Sod it. Call it the Holy Land. Fuck it.
Yeah,
just
sure.
call it.
Yeah, 100%.
Holy Land. Right? That's it. Holy Land. I mean, the Holland people might be like, that sounds too much like Holland. No, Holy Land. Holy Land. Just that's it. And it's for the Christians, the Muslims, the Jews. You know what? Even for the unholy people, like if you don't have a religion, you can be there too. It doesn't matter. Like, you know, I'd be welcome there too. Like, I do believe in God. So like, it could be for anybody and everyone. Minimal government. No one has preferential treatment.
Yes. That's the most important.
And that's it. And you know what you described, your grandmother, I've heard this from rabbis.
See?
Rabbis have told me this, that we all live together happily, Ahmed.
Yes.
I've had Rabbi Weiss on my show. He was saying this. He was like, this is all nonsense. We live happily together in peace and harmony. It can all still happen if the Zionists just fucking went away.
Yeah, 100%. If they relinquish their power, which, I think right now they're dissolving. Certainly.
They're desperate.
And it remains they're very desperate. So it remains to be seen how much the U.S. and Europe can keep upholding and funding, this welfare state, the welfare nuclear state. We'll see. It remains to be seen. But yeah, it's so funny because you talk to most Palestinians, that's all they want. They don't want this two-state thing because that's obviously not even working now, right? They keep eating up more and more of the West Bank while no one, quote, is looking.
So I want to quickly say something. So one of the they do these like tropes, stereotypes of Palestinian people. They go, I heard this clip saying, 200 Palestinians came over to Europe, and after 5 years, half of them were, criminals, and half of them were this, and they were sexist, and they're rapists, and they're this and that. I think the Palestinian people are one of the most beautiful people in the world. Like, they've suffered so much trauma, so much pain and suffering. It's actually beyond evil when you think about it. I had to pull back from watching some of the videos. I literally found myself curled up on my kitchen floor, just crying like a baby. And or my sister would call me, and she's in Sweden. She lives out there now, and she'd be crying, and then I'd be crying. It's just too much. Like, the Palestinian people have suffered so much, but they still carry so much dignity, compassion. They are not hateful. They don't turn around and say, we hate all Jews. They go, we don't like Israel and the occupying Israeli IOF. They know how to differentiate between Jews and Zionists. There's so much. They have really shown how beautiful they are. And if there are some bad Palestinians, well, there are bad people everywhere. And the only thing I would say is they have been so heavily traumatized. We're talking about people who are psychologically, some of them have been fucked up big time. I can understand why some of them might be the way they are. Like, these people need help. These people need help. And the world has turned against them. Like, it must be such a horrible feeling, like being in Gaza, like, blockaded and being bombed, like more than like all the bombs that fell on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And your land is being pulverized. Your tents are being bombed. Your hospitals are being bombed. Your churches, your mosques, and they're crying out for freedom and someone saving them, someone in the international world. And no one's coming. And you know what? Like, when it was Libya, we need no-fly zones. When it was Iraq, we need no-fly zones, humanitarian corridors. Where the fuck are you now? Your Bernard Levies and all the Tony Blairs, all that fucking righteous, humanitarian cause that you wanted your no-fly zones. Now, where are the no-fly zones? It has shown the Western leaders to be the hypocritical, lying Zionist shills that they are. Because the double standards are so blatant. But anyway, one of the things I just want to say was, I think the Palestinian people are really great people. And one of the things that this genocide has exposed is how now the Israeli society has become, I think they've suffered trauma-based mind control. Now their society has become so corrupt and really dark. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course I know what you mean. I mean, I completely agree. I mean, when you look at poll after poll after poll, I mean, it's just so, it almost seems not even human to say that 82% of Israel doesn't think, that Israel went far enough in Gaza, or, that, over 50% of Jewish Israelis don't want Palestinians in Israel to be there anymore. Like, those are crazy numbers. For instance, when we saw on literally on live TV, or on TV, Israeli soldiers raping Palestinians in their torture camps. What did you see Israeli society do? They literally were rioting because they wanted the rights for the soldiers to keep raping their hostages. It's the Palestinian hostages. Like, so it's like, it's so let's pretend you don't even want to look at the polls. Even just look at what Israeli social media on their Telegram channels and on their TikToks, what are they posting? I remember when the genocide first started, the amount of disgusting TikTok videos I saw about regular Israelis, not just soldiers. Obviously, we've seen the soldiers commit war crime after war crime, and that's why they're being chased around the world, and they'll never know peace again. but just regular Israelis and regular society, making fun of like, oh, I have electricity, I have water, you don't. Or they wear hijab and they paint their teeth black and pretend that they're a, Palestinian woman crying with her child and put ketchup pretending that there's blood on them. Like, what is this society? It is sick. It is sociopathic. And I will say, yes, absolutely, it's gotten, worse and worse and worse because of the more impunity that they celebrate. The more egregious terrorizing that Israel does to the people in historic Palestine, as well as their neighboring countries, Israel, Syria, like everywhere else that they're trying to, create their little Greater Israel or big Greater Israel project. My point is to say that it has been built on this psychosis. It has been built on this violent delusion and been propped up by Western imperial power and money. And so the more vile they are, the more money they get. Why would they stop? No one who is funding them has told them, you know what, this is like a little much. Like, can you just stop, tearing like out uteruses from mothers? Like, can you stop that now? No one has said that. So why would they stop? They just keep feeling more emboldened, and they just keep getting more violent and delusional. And this is what we see today. But it has been the root of Zionism, is my point. It isn't that like this is like a, sudden Jack in the Box moment. Like, this is what it has always been. This has been the root, and it is now only culminating in what we see today.
Absolutely. The root is just bearing the fruit from the rotten tree. This is what you get. This is what you get. And it has been like that because you other the other people who were living there, the natives, and you dehumanize them. And when you do that, you dehumanize yourself. The British Mandate government disarmed all the Arabs, and that's always a bad sign because that's the precursor to a genocide. So the Israelis were armed to the hilt, especially from the States and the UK. So they had all the guns, and the Brits were happy to keep them that. And the first terrorist act was King David Hotel. And, several of the prime ministers were all terrorists.
Yeah.
Whatever, I can't remember the names, but, like the Lurgun or whatever they were, they were all terrorist leaders. Urgun. They're all terrorist leaders. And and so like the nation was brought up with land theft, othering and dehumanizing, raping, burning down villages, ethnically cleansing, terrorism. Like, not a great start to a country. Like, that's a problem child right there. Like, that if that was a human being, that you wouldn't want your daughter marrying them, right? That's trouble there. And then and as the country gets older, starts picking fights with everyone.
Yes.
But then cries victim, and then starts taking more and more land because it's never enough. And then starts to create these ghettos and, really awful conditions in the West Bank and in the Gaza. And then basically it just gets worse and worse. And like, even when they take people like the prisoners, they experiment on them, they take their skin. I mean, there's skin donor banks. I mean, the list goes on, and they take children, like little children, and keep them from their parents. They do stupid things like putting blockades and passes so you can't go through the gates. What should be like a 10-minute journey becomes like a 5-hour journey. It's humiliating. It's debasing. It's sick. They take their orchards, they poison their orchards, they literally poison the wells. And I'm not trying to do this anti-Semitic trope there. They literally do that.
That's like, what they do.
That is what they do. They'll put a dead goat down a well. Like, they do all this shit to torture the lives of the Palestinians. And it's like, man, it ain't cool. It's just not cool. And what they don't realize in the long term, they're just creating a fucked up society of really fucked up people. And they might kill every Palestinian there, which I don't think is going to happen. The Palestinian flame will carry on. What they will do is they're rotting themselves from inside out.
Yes, 100%. I mean, and you see it, and so that's what I'm saying. That's why I always say, like, I don't think this is complicated. Like, you ask any human being, is this right to do? For any reason, is this right to do? Any human being, without knowing who the oppressor and oppressed are, any human being would be like, oh my God, that is fucked up. But then the second you find out that the that the oppressor is, a Zionist, then you're like, oh, wait. Actually, is it anti-Semitic if
anti-Semitic,
I say this?
anti-Semitic. Yeah, yeah. All right, listen. I get asked this all the time, right? On X or Instagram, whenever I post. So give me an answer. Rolla,
Huh.
Are you a Hamas supporter?
Oh my God. I don't even know where to start with that. Yeah. I mean, what do you say? I don't know. I think it's obviously it's very much their favorite phrase to start off with, because then that's all that audiences focus on, and they don't that's like their favorite smoke bomb, right? Do you support Hamas? Do you condemn Hamas? Are you Hamas? I'm sorry, like when you're calling Greta Thunberg Hamas, you have already lost all fucking validity. Like you are, I will discount you. Like
So
you remember?
you know what it
Mhm.
is? I just want to quickly answer for you. Like they have lots of logical fallacies,
Yes.
right? So you do the ad hominem attack, you know, the personal
Yes.
attack. So instead of addressing the argument, you just attack them. You're anti-Semitic, right?
Right.
Then they do appeal to emotions, right? But like 40 babies were beheaded and raped, and I don't know which order it was, you know, and there were none, by the way, folks. If you're listening, no one was beheaded or raped. You know, it was just bullshit. So they appeal to emotion. They do red herrings to divert you from the topic. They do straw man arguments, fallacies of presumption, fallacies of ambiguity, fallacies of weak induction. It goes on. And actually, I'm going to write a Substack article about this logical fallacies, because the Zionists are fantastic at that. Instead of addressing the problem and the question, they'll just frame things in a way that you just go, what? Like, and so you end up stuck in this mess here,
exactly,
and not dealing with the real issue. So when they say, do you support Hamas? It's like, no, this isn't a binary question. This didn't start on October the 7th. This happened with the birth of Israel. The trauma started then. The terrorism started then. And you want to know about October 7th? It's a green flag. You know, the most secure prison border on the planet that can actually hear cockroaches.
Yes.
Suddenly, for 6 hours, is down, and these old men with crutches, literally, and tractors are coming through the border, and paragliders, like, what the fuck? And like this tiny little country where a helicopter can get up in 5 minutes, wheels up in 5 minutes, and be over that area in like 5 minutes. 6 hours. And they, at the last minute, move a concert and a festival. Like, the Israelis knew what was happening. They either supported it, funded it, or let it happen so they could use it as a pretext to go full on genocide mode. Like, this is it. And if people think, no, they would never do that. Look, 9/11 was a false flag, right? They were happy killing people. US liberty, that's another false flag. They do not have a problem killing their own people to justify. And they did this as well in Arab countries. They would do terrorist acts against Jewish people to force the Jews out of the Arab countries into Israel. Like this isn't conspiracy theory, guys. Just look into it and you'll see it's all true. So, and if you look at the people that died on October 7th, a lot of them were actually IDF soldiers. So they make it look like it was all innocent civilians. No, Hamas came over and was attacking the soldiers, and the soldiers were attacking back. So these were, you could argue, an armed struggle, a resistance, legitimate fighting going on, casualties. Then there was also Israeli on Israeli attacks. So a lot of the deaths were Israeli on Israeli. Apache helicopters literally gunning down their own people, you know, and it's got the Hannibal Directive or something like that.
It's called the Hannibal Directive,
And then there's some people who died from Hamas. So when they say like 1,000 people died, actually, like maybe a third of them were like Hamas, or 25%. People need to look at the figures. And I think Max Blumenthal did a great documentary highlighting this. And all this stuff, like, you know, like when they said Kuwait, the Iraqis were kicking out, like throwing out babies out of the incubators. It was complete garbage, because they know if you mention babies, it will get people emotionally involved and upset. If you mention rape, it will get people emotionally involved. And then they looked at the thought, oh, if we say raping babies, we're hitting big time jackpot. So they knew exactly what they were doing, and there is no evidence for any of those initial accusations. And so many people in the West were like, give him hell, go get them. And, you know, they were supporting genocide based on this righteous indignation, anger, frustration, but it was all a psyop. It's always a psyop. Anyway, that's all I want to say about October 7th. It is a green flag. You just need to look into it. And it's just, It doesn't make sense at all. And the reality is it didn't start on October the 7th. And if you want to take one view, you could argue that the people in Gaza have got a legitimate right to attack an oppressing or colonizing force. Like if the Brits tomorrow were invaded by China, and if I said, no, everybody, you can't raise a finger and you just have to allow yourselves to be raped and pillaged by the Chinese, people would be like, what the hell? No, we need to fight. We need to gather together and create counterinsurgencies and rebellion, rebels, forces, and we need to kick these Chinese out. That's a legitimate, legal, internationally recognized right of an occupied people to do, isn't it?
100% it is. And it's actually even more. I'll go further with your comparison there. Let's pretend, because what happened in Gaza isn't just that they're being occupied like the West Bank is, for instance, where there's soldiers everywhere. They literally tell you what road you can, right? It's literally like apartheid South Africa. If you're Palestinian, you have to have a specific license plate color, and you can only drive on a specific road. You can only drink from specific water sources. You can only live in specific areas. So it is absolute apartheid. And then do
you know what they're doing wrong? Do you know what they're doing wrong? Every Palestinian in occupied West Bank should wear a Star of David flag, like yellow little thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe that'll bring back like comparisons.
Exactly. Dude, exactly. It's the same fucking thing. It's the same thing. But so to your point, I think even the people in the West Bank have a complete right to resist the occupation that they are under since 1967. But what Gaza was under and is still under is even worse. They are literally caged in. So the example I want to give, or the comparison I want to give, is, let's not pretend China or anywhere else, like whatever, Brazil, I don't know, whatever country, right? Not just China. Let's pretend any other country comes in and says, right, not only am I taking over your country, your city, your area, but I am locking you in your house. What? I'm locking in your house? Well, how about food? I'll tell you what food you can eat and you can't eat. I'll be the one. How about electricity? No. I'll tell you when you can get electricity. Wait, my water's not running. I'll tell you when you can get water. I will tell you when you can go in the yard and breathe fresh air. I'll tell you when you can, if you can ever drive your car to the hospital to cure yourself in another country or something like that. Like, that is exactly what they've been under for decades. A complete besiegement. They've been in a cage. 2 million people in a cage with Israel. Israel owns the freaking human registry of the Palestinians in Gaza. Every name, every person, my point is, they have ruled over these specific Palestinians in this area for decades. And you tell me what you would do. What would you do if you were locked in your house, you and your family, your loved ones? What would you do? You tried to appeal to the international community. To your point, they completely turned the other cheek. In fact, they funded even more. You try to appeal using peace. They had the March of Return, the peaceful March of Return, for a year and a half, starting in 2018. Every weekend, marching to the cage, dancing, poetry, music, trying to get the international community's attention. What did they get? Zero help from the international community, and even worse, they got sniped. The soldiers would play sniping games with the kneecaps of the Palestinians who would dare to march up to the cage that they were in. What would you do? You were screaming, you were live streaming, you were telling, you were writing books and poetry, writing music. You're trying to tell the world, what would you do? Would you not take up arms and try to save your family from this hell that you are in? What would you do?
Yeah, exactly. Something for all the listeners out there to think about. So, and you know what? Yeah. So the next thing I would say is, let's talk about, that video that brought you to my attention, the one about the Hebrew language.
I love that one.
Girl, you love that one? I can tell you thousands of people around the world love that one. For my listeners who might not quite have seen that one, can you just explain that? Because honestly, it was like Wow.
Yeah, for sure. So, so to everything we've been saying, right, about how Zionism has to manufacture this narrative, it is dependent on propaganda and manufacturing of story, so that they can convince people that they can take the land, kick people out, kill people, take more land, and create greater Israel in the end, right? So they're dependent on this narrative, and so I think you even said it earlier on in this interview, or this podcast session, where you were saying all you need to do is scratch the surface. So I do a lot of research on different things. And the question that I had in my head was, because I'm an Arabic speaker, so I speak Arabic. And they keep using this term like Semitic, we are Semitic, So therefore, we've been here for 3,000 years. Therefore, we get to come back, and kill everyone and take over your land. So I asked myself, why doesn't Hebrew sound Semitic, quote Semitic, right? Why doesn't it sound like a Semitic language to my ear? That's where it started. I didn't really know. So I'm like, I speak Arabic. When I listen to Hebrew, it sounds almost, it's German, like European, like it's flat. There's no intonations. They don't have the letters that we do. And then I compare it to, like, for instance, Yemenite Hebrew and other languages. I'm like, why does this language, Israeli Hebrew, sound different? And so that's where I started my research. And it literally took one click because on the Israeli Minister of Culture website, they tell you that biblical Hebrew hasn't been spoken, or ancient Hebrew hasn't been spoken for 2,000 years. It's only been used in, let's say, prayer. It's kind of like how Latin is, right, to Christianity. It's only used in prayers and scripture and things like that, but it's not used in everyday speaking, like an actual spoken language. So I'm like, okay, when was this even created or revived or whatever? And it was only revived in the 1900s by a Russian dude, Russian linguist named Eliezer Perlman, named Yitzhak Perlman, who later then, to your point, changed his name to Eliezer Ben Yehuda.
Ben Yehuda?
Yeah. Literally to make him sound more like of the land, more Semitic, more like, I don't know, Oriental, quote unquote. And he was obsessed with reviving this language. And so he even, and so the Zionist movement then teamed up with him, and that ended up being the language of the land. And so when they're speaking Hebrew, they want to make you think that, oh, we've been speaking this language for centuries and so on and so forth. They completely haven't been. It hasn't been a spoken language for 2,000 years. So it's part of this propaganda package that makes it seem as if, like, oh, we belong to this land. We always have this. It's like, no, dude, like this Russian dude just, was fanatical and forced his son to speak Hebrew, and only Hebrew. In fact, his Russian wife, whose first language was Russian, he would scream at her when she would sing like Russian lullabies to their son. And so their son ended
nice
up,
husband.
yeah.
Nice husband.
He didn't allow his son to interact with any other kids because no other kids spoke Hebrew. And so all he wanted his son to do was only hear ever the Hebrew language that he created and revived, and like Frankenstein together, like based off of Sephardic Judaism, and then took the, German pronunciation. Like, it's just this Frankensteining of this, ancient language. He forced his son to learn it, and his son became the first ever native Hebrew speaker in the world. And I believe that was in 1920 something, I forget.
Wow.
Yeah,
so how is it different from Yemeni Hebrew? Folks, as you know, I've got no sponsors for the show, so no one pays me money to place ads. I do have an affiliate page, a shop page. So if you visit my website, docmalik.com, you'll see there's a shop page, and you can look at Hunter Gather. They do great food. We've been using them for years before even I started the podcast, and there's a little code you can use there. And there's a lovely sauna company, Wellness Heracles, that has an affiliate code with me. They have brilliant saunas and cold plunges. I highly recommend you visit my page and have a look at that. And there'll be some other ones as well, like sea green supplements with iodine and micronutrients. Like I said, they don't sponsor me, but if you buy from them, I do get a little tiny percentage, and it will go a long way to supporting the show. Folks, I also want to say thanks to all of you who've been leaving reviews on Spotify, the 5-star reviews. I've seen that they've gone up. I can't thank you enough. And also on Apple Podcasts. And on that note, I just want to say thanks to Antonia Eastwood, who wrote the following comment: entertaining and informative, 5 stars. I look forward to Dr. Malik's podcast very much. He has a very good, easy to listen to style with informative, insightful, and interesting guests that will help you beat the system. I don't think there's been one episode where I haven't been entertained or informed. Thank you, Antonia. And thank you everyone else who's leaving reviews and sharing my content. It makes a difference. Okay, folks, back to the podcast. And thank you so much.
Well, if you listen to Yemeni Hebrew, ancient Yemeni Hebrew, because of course, like I said, like they use it for song, for prayer, for liturgical reasons. So they don't use it in everyday language. I will say a big reason why is because religiously, like a lot of the rabbis were against using spoken Hebrew as a spoken language because it was a language meant to communicate and give reverence to God. It was meant to be a spiritual language. It wasn't meant to be used for mundane things, like me and you were talking about, the Super Bowl or something.
Am I not mistaken that Jews traditionally spoke Aramaic?
Yeah, of course. Even Jesus spoke Aramaic. And actually, I think Netanyahu was famously corrected by the Pope when Netanyahu tried to, commiserate with the Pope. It's like, Jesus spoke, Hebrew, and then the Pope is like, no, actually, he spoke Aramaic. So it was a famous correction, of course.
It's like the Chinese coming over to Ireland and saying, our little book, this little book of ours, says we're the chosen people, and Ireland's our homeland. And the Irish are like, what the hell? And then they go, and we speak Gaelic, and they resurrect Gaelic, and but it's with a Chinese accent. So they're all going shing shong shing with like Gaelic, like no one else speaks Gaelic like that, but there's Chinese Gaelic, and it says there, and then they say to all these Irish people, like, look, you've got the whole of Europe to go to, like, all these white people, you're all over the place. Like, we've got this tiny little Ireland just for us. Go to England, go to France, go to Germany. You're all white. You're all Christian. It doesn't matter. Get out of here. Like, I think that's what people need to understand. Like, you can't just say, oh, you're all Arabs. Because they do this all the time. There's a big map and they say, look, all these green countries. And then tiny little Israel is just on its own. It's like, no, guys, they're all individual countries and communities 100%. And peoples and ethnicities and religions and races. And to just say, you're brown, you speak Arab, and you're Muslim, you can go somewhere else. It's fundamentally racist.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. And it's so interesting because you hit on something very important, which is when a lot of people, when some people think of Arab, like, an Arab country, they conflate things. They think maybe that means Muslim country, but Muslim country, like the most biggest population of Muslims, I believe, is in Indonesia. Like, that is a Muslim country, but that country does not speak Arabic as their national language, right? So when we say Arab countries, we literally simply mean countries that speak Arabic. That's all that means. It's not a race. It's not an ethnicity. It's not a color. Look at me. A lot of people, might conflate me with being like, oh, but you look so white. You can't be Palestinian. You can't be Arab. It's like, you do know the world is big and wide, right? Like, it's so ridiculous. And the beautiful thing about West Asia and North Africa is how much of a melting pot it was because of all the trading routes. So I might have had like Chechnyan or Turkish background or, something like
Greek,
that. Like
Hellenistic.
Greek, 100%. And
all of that stuff.
100%. And so it's really so when we say Arab country, we literally mean country that speaks Arabic. So it's just like saying someone, hey, they speak English in, I don't know, to your point, like New Zealand. Hey, person from Scotland, we're kicking you out, and now you go to New Zealand. You're fine. They speak English there. You'll be cool. Like they're quote quote white like you. It's that stupid. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to make that conflation. Yeah.
Well, it's very good point. And like I said, it goes back to just being fundamentally racist. And they use there is a lot of racism. So they won't show Kazan children who are blonde and blue eyed, and there are, because then
a lot.
That might make Europeans go, hey, hold on one second, that looks like my daughter. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, when the press is so good, even the ones that are supposedly Palestinian leaning, it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
It's all psyop. It's a psyop
Yeah.
within a psyop. They're all Zionists, even
Yeah.
the ones that you think are sympathetic towards the Palestinians and critical of Israel. They're not. The way they frame the language, and they'll just say, 100 Palestinians died in a camp today, and it'll be like no mention of stories, names, pictures, backgrounds. It's just it's a toll. It's a death toll. But then if someone in Israel is murdered, it'll be like, you'll hear the whole backstory. They were a cheerleader. They had aspirations to go to university. They're just a young kid, and they had all these hopes and dreams. And look at them at the prom party. And then suddenly you build up a story, and you have an affiliation, and you care about them. You're like, oh my God, that's terrible. That person was killed, or whatever, by these horrible Hamas people. And then it's like on another side, yeah, well, there's like 50,000 people in Gaza died today. Let's move on to the weather. It's like that kind of stuff is so rife, and it's even more nuanced. And I'm not clever enough to come up with examples, but they'll frame the language that's so sympathetic towards the Zionists and so just wrong when it comes to Palestinians.
Yeah. Almost like an afterthought. Almost like half of an afterthought. And actually, you said something even earlier where you were talking about like the very, very insidious lie of the quote 40 beheaded babies. By the way, have you ever noticed that this number 40, what does it sound like? Alibaba and the 40 thieves, the 40. It's so, it's even subconsciously, they are disgustingly Orientalist. This 40, like 40, there wasn't even one, let alone 40. But why does this 40? You know what I mean? So either way, so you have the lie, the insidious, violent, I would say, lie about the 40 beheaded babies, and the violent lie about the systemic rape by Hamas. But when you actually, when anti-Muslim and racist audiences actually see an actual rape happening live on screen, or actual babies with their heads blown off, cut off, literally severed heads, a parent with a head of their baby, not even a baby, when they see it with their eyes, it doesn't even elicit the same emotion, because they are not quote white. They are not Christian. They are not white. They are not of us. Therefore, when I see it, I actually, I don't know. I heard about these 40 beheaded babies by Hamas. That's more important to me. You know what I mean? So it's really such a gaslight, and it's really so disheartening, because when you see these leaders, even Biden himself, literally lied and said he saw photos. And I think even Trump has lied now about, I saw photos. I thought I saw the photos. There's no such thing. I'm telling your audience right now, if they don't believe, search it, look for it, go look for it, see if you can find it. I can't tell you how many Zionists that I at the beginning was engaging with, because I'm like, what are they seeing? I'm not, like, I literally was even questioning myself. I'm like, is there something? That's to the point where I'm always questioning, and I'm always, maybe I have it wrong. Maybe there was some sort of, awful injustice that I don't know of. Every single time, without fail, I'd be like, please show me a video, show me a photo. They send me a video. I click on it. It's of that fucking guy who owns who leads up the Zaka organization, the Zionist organization, who takes the humanitarian.
The liar.
And it's just him telling the camera about what happened. I'm like, where is the documentation? They're like, didn't you hear what he said? I said, where is it? Like, what? So I learned my point is to say, I'm challenging your audience, like, literally, if you don't believe me or us, go look for it yourself. There is literally no such documented proof.
Yeah, There isn't. And you know, honestly, sister, I've gone further now. Like I was trying to argue with the Zionists and argue with people and try and like explain to them and debate with them. Not even argue, debate with them and try and enlighten them and inform them and educate them. And I'm afraid it's like the COVID vaccine and pandemic. They trust the government. They blindly, oh, we're going to give you a genetic bioweapon for something that isn't even deadly. And they go, oh, okay, right, the government said so. No, I'm sorry, the government lies. The government lies every single freaking time. There's no weapons of mass destruction. 9/11 was a complete false flag. There was no pandemic. And the gene vaccines are not going to save humanity. They're actually toxic. And, you know, that's fact. Right. And I've got all the evidence and proof for it. But, you know, people aren't willing to look there because it makes them uncomfortable when you challenge them. And I used to argue and debate with Zionists and say, look, there's no evidence to show any of this. And they would come out with their same lines again and again. I've not given up. I've given up. I'm sorry. I'm at that point now. If you're a genocidal apologist, I haven't got time for you.
Yeah.
You have no humanity. You know, you have no humanity. I don't care whether if it's been brainwashed out of you or you're just now evil. Like if you can see babies being killed and you can justify it because Hamas, no fucking none of that but you know, it's like even now today, like I'll say to people like you shouldn't get your kids getting the flu shot. But no, don't, like look into it. I've got like shelves full of books explaining all this shit. Right? The evidence is all there. And it's the same with the Gaza, Palestine. Evidence is all there in front of you. Now, you said one thing that I'm going to slightly disagree with. You said even Biden. Biden? That incompetent, imbecile, pedophile, like him, like all politicians. They're all actors. They're all serving the puppet masters. It's like Punch and Judy's show. No, she didn't. No, she didn't. and they're all being controlled by the same people.
Yeah, no, I know we don't disagree at all. I don't know. I don't know if you thought I was like a Biden supporter or something. I was just letting you know that even the president of the United States was repeating the lie. Is my point.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
No, but what it comes to Rolla is like everything that Israelis and Zionists have accused other people of, they have been doing themselves.
100%.
They have beheaded the babies. They have raped the prisoners.
Yes.
They're the persecutors. They're the abusers.
Yes.
They're the racists. They're the colonizers. They're the religious fundamentalists.
Yes. Thank you.
I'm sorry, but your little book tells you that you're the special chosen people and that you have to build a third temple and then you're going to become the conquerors of the world because God has told you that you're going to rule over everyone in this one world government and this one world religion. I'm sorry. That's fucking fundamentalist to me.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And to your point, like there are more Christian Zionists than even Jewish Zionists because they, you know.
Well,
so
explain that one now.
Thing.
You've done a wonderful video explaining that. So let's explain the whole Christian Zionist business.
It's crazy. So there's about 60, I think it's now 60 million or so evangelical Christians here in the U.S. You might know, someone like, for instance, Mike Huckabee or someone like Ted Cruz, right? You've seen all these like U.S. politicians, like Christian like politicians, give their blind, slavish support to Israel. And you might be wondering, wait, that's not a person who claims to be Jewish. That is a person who claims to be Christian. And they seem to be more Zionist than like Netanyahu. I mean, if that's even possible, but you know what I mean? Like, what is happening? What's happening is that back in I'm gonna get my dates wrong, but let's just say back in the 1900s, essentially
1800s, mid 1800s,
mid 1800s. Thank you. There was a Bible called the Schofield Bible. So it's based on the King James version, and it's basically this guy, the charlatan, this lawyer charlatan who literally went to prison for fraud, came out and somehow decided to write his own Bible called the Schofield Bible in the U.S. This is in the U.S. And what it is he takes the King James version and he basically, for the first time ever in the history of all Bibles, puts his own, like literally almost half of the pages are his own interpretations and notes. And he is the one who pushes this idea that in fact, Christians are not the ones who are chosen. It's the Jewish people who are the ones who are chosen, and we need them all to go to this land of Judea. Actually, it was called the Palestinian Covenant in the Bible itself. It's literally called the Palestinian Covenant, but they don't want you to know that, right? They want it to be called Israel now, where they need all the Jews to go to the land of Judea, now called, historic Palestine, now called the colony of Israel, in order to summon in the rapture, where Jesus will come secretly down to earth. All the Christians will literally, all the Christians will literally float up to the sky and kind of freeze there, while the 2/3 of the Jews will get massacred and killed. But don't worry, 1/3 of them will be saved, convert to Christianity, and go up to the sky with the rest of the Christians. So you see even how anti-Semitic that is. Like, it's like, we need, hey, come here. Let's all, summon in and shepherd in the Jews to what we now call the colony of Israel, so that 2/3 of them can die and 1/3 of them can convert, and we can all go to heaven. Like,
no, but it's bam, anti-Semitic, bam. Like,
yeah,
it's Hamas. You're Hamas terrorist. You're Hamas supporter. Like, Hamas are the fundamentalists.
So that's how they duped. The Zionists duped all of these Christians to basically grow up thinking that they need,
Yeah, 100%. So the guy was Cyrus Ingerson Schofield. He lived from 1843 to 1921. Like you said, he was an American lawyer turned minister. Hallelujah. He published the Schofield Reference Bible in 1909, later revised in 1917. And he got financial support from a guy called Samuel Untermeyer, who was a very powerful New York lawyer and banker. And he provided Schofield with all the introductions and the connections in the publishing and political circles. And he was a Zionist sympathizer, and he helped facilitate access to Oxford University Press. Now, the Oxford University Press, OUP, was very, very, famous. And because they published this Bible, even though Schofield was relatively unknown, it gave enormous credibility and global reach, particularly amongst Protestants in America and Britain. And it kind of fed into that whole dispensationalist network and all this other evangelical kind of stuff. And it's kind of bizarre. It's actually kind of crazy. It's like the Christian Zionists are like, we love you, Jews, just so that you can bring the second coming. And most of you are going to die, but it's okay. Like, we love you. We love you. Judeo-Christian values. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. They really believe this. Like, and the crazy thing is, it's the first ever Bible published by the Oxford publishing. So that's also crazy. Like, why? Why is this the first Bible? Who funded this Bible? Schofield literally, had a 2-year stint in Switzerland. Who paid for his travel? Who paid for his stay? So, I mean, there's a lot of theories there, but I can only presume from what we know now today who might have been behind it. But
basically, Christian Zionism is like, I stand by Israel until you get genocided and all the Jews die.
Yeah,
like literally.
100%. Yeah.
It's so batshit crazy. It's insane.
I know. And of course, Zionists love it because we're like, we don't care what you believe as long as you, keep funding us and keep sending your stupid politicians over.
They're like, your Jesus isn't coming. Yeah, you're gonna be waiting a long time. We're not going anywhere. You think we're gonna die? Yeah, suckers.
Exactly. And it's funny because maybe if your audience hears this for the first time, they might think that this sounds insane.
Yeah.
But it is insane. And it is fundamental. It's religious fundamentalism. And that is what is driving. And like I say, there's way more Christian Zionists than Jewish Zionists.
So there is Christian fundamentalism driving this. And there is Judaic, Christian, Zionist, whatever. Fundamentalism driving this. This is all, the Judeo-Christian fundamentalism that's driving this. Like, I'm not for any fundamentalism. I'm just telling you that straight up. That's the reason why I just kind of walked away from religion. I was like, man, I've had enough of this shit. I just have a direct connection with God, and it's like, he's on the phone on the other end. It's all good with me. But basically, people need to know this because they make it out like it's the Muslims. And the Muslims and the Muslimans, they're like I said, most of them just want to go to the mall and have a nice meal and have ice cream. Like,
in their home. They want to go back home. They don't want a locked door. They don't want to pound on the door just to go get some medicine for their child. They don't want to knock on the door just to get some ice cream. They want to freely walk around in their home.
All right, but some people say, well, these Hamas people have got it coming because they're all a bunch of misogynists and sexists, and they throw Jews, not Jews, they throw gays off rooftops. What would you say to that?
I'm gay. I'm not being thrown off a rooftop. I don't know. That's what I would say. Also, I would say I feel much less safe in America than I would in Palestine. So, I think with what's going on in America, and in a lot of, obviously, like Western countries that are moving towards fascism and kind of right-wingism, and
totalitarianism.
Yeah, 100%. Almost dictate. Trump being pretty much a dictator. I'm pretty much sure he will try to find a way to stick in here for another third term.
I saw Trump say something like, "I gave them Golan Heights. I gave them the capital, Jerusalem. I gave." That's right. And you're just like, who are you to give? And then I've even heard rabbis say he's our first Jewish president and stuff like that. And it's just like. It's like, oh my God. And it's just like, I just don't understand why people can't see it. Like something like half of the American cabinet is like dual citizen Israeli American. And like, apparently just saying, oh, that's a bit weird, makes you anti-Semitic. Like, imagine, just imagine, right? Let's just pick a nice, friendly country like Greece. Like, I love Greek food, right? I love Greek food, right? Greeks are nice people. They're cool. Like, just imagine half of the American cabinet was dual citizen Greek American. You'd be like Greece is a small country, similar size to Israel, like small population. Half of the American government is dual citizen Greek American. What the fuck is going on there? Like, that's fucking weird. But like, no one would go, bam, like, anti-Greek. They would say, yeah, that's fucking weird, man. Or let's pick Ireland. Ireland's lovely. They got nice music and funny dancing. Like, half the American government is dual citizen American Irish. Like, proper Ireland.
Yeah, sure.
You'd be like, what the fuck? Or any country. Taiwan. Let's fucking pick. Can you imagine Taiwan? Half of them were... They'd be like, China's taking over America. And it'd be perfectly legitimate to say that.
Imagine if half of them were Saudi or Iranian. Imagine if half of them were any of these, like, quote, quote, axis of evil countries. It's ridiculous. Also, I would just want to shout out to all my Irish people. I love them so much. And I wouldn't mind if if half of the U.S. government was Irish American.
But do you know why? Do you know why the Irish people are so pro-Palestinian?
Of course, yes, please say.
Because they are victims of colonization themselves for centuries. Yes. They have been colonized by England, and not just the England, but the root that infested England. Because the English people themselves are inherently good. But unfortunately, the root has penetrated the city of London centuries ago, and they run the East India Company and the City of London and the corporation. So it's not English people per se, they're good people, but the root has taken over England, and England therefore then colonized Ireland and created the potato famine, literally hoovered up innocent people and shipped them across. The first slaves to America were white Irish. People don't realize, but they were expensive, so they got the blacks instead. So the Irish have long suffered under the yoke of colonialism and oppression. And they see it. They see their kindred spirits, the brothers, like and sisters across, thousands of miles. They go, yeah, we see what's going on there. We feel for you. So that's why shout out to the Irish people. Anyway, there's something else. Have we missed anything? I think there's something about racism as well. I don't know if you.
How Zionism is racism, like the UN. The UN resolution. Yeah, so the UN resolution, so the whole world kind of got together in the 70s, and they were just seeing how rampant and violent and disgusting Israel was being, like, using Zionism as the reason to, do everything that they were to the Palestinian people. And so the world got together like, hey, we're going to have a vote here in the UN. And the vote and the proposition is that Zionism is a form of racism and racial discrimination. And of course it passed because it is. And so of course Israel didn't like this. Like, what? We're not racist. And so in indignation, one of the most pettiest cringe things they did was there's a street in Haifa called the United Nations Boulevard, whatever. They literally they took it and they changed it to Zionism Boulevard. But that was like they're kind of like, we're flipping the bird at you, because how dare you say Zionism is racism? And of course, later on, I think in the either late 80s or early 90s, a resolution was put forth to reverse the decision and say, no, we racism is not, Zionism is not racism. And the whole world voted. At that point, Zionism had taken over all of Western, influence of politics. And of course, at that point, it was reversed. And you would be, if I were to give your audience a guess about which country put forth that resolution, you wouldn't be wrong for thinking it might be Israel itself, to be like, please reverse this. It was the United States. The United States under George Bush, the father, senior, and pushed by John Bolton. And it was the United States. Can you believe this is how much Zionism has taken control of all of the United States politics, power, geopolitical decisions. The United States was the one who went to the UN and said, reverse this decision now. And there you go.
Do you know, I think the Zionists have just taken over like all the intelligence agencies, governments, and they create basically the world is their stage. The Mossad undercover, a covered up Mossad agent said in an interview, look, we're the directors, we're the actors, the planet is our stage, we get to do whatever we like. And they really are a threat to humanity. I mean, Christians listening to this podcast need to understand that Zionists don't like Christians either. Like, it's not just Muslims. Like, they've emptied out West Asia of all its Christians, haven't they?
Yeah, 100%. And when they bomb churches, the third oldest church in the world is in Gaza. They completely obliterated it. They don't care. They don't care. Even in Bethlehem, in Bethlehem, or in any of the beautiful Christian sites that are still in historic Palestine, the Israelis, literally soldiers with AKs all around, deciding when is it that you can worship, when is it that you can celebrate your Christian holidays. They decide. You don't get to decide when to go to your own church. Like, how sadistic is that?
I've seen so many videos. Yeah, I've seen so many videos of like priests and nuns being spat on by Israelis.
Oh, 100%. And it's very usual. It's normal. It's normal. They don't get, it's not like anyone who spits, the spitting thing especially. There was this like influencer shill who went to Israel and who's trying to, trying to show like, oh, they love Christians. And this person got spat on, and he literally came back and he's like, I only got spat on once. What kind of slavish mentality? You only got spat on once for being Christian, and of course nothing happened to, like, it's normal. It's not like they go to jail or get fined or anything. Like, it is almost expected that you are going to spit on Christians as they pass through a specific like gate in Jerusalem. It's just known. You are going to get spat on.
And where's your Mike Huckabee and all your Christian Zionists then defending Christians in West Asia? It's just insane.
They're getting ready to, they're preparing the 5 red heifers to send over from Texas to Israel so they can build their 3rd temple. That's what they're doing.
It's mad.
I don't know if you've heard of that, by the way. You should look it up.
I've heard something along. I don't know the details. Like, I honestly switched off. I mean, the moment I just started hearing it, I was like, "What the fuck?" Like,
I know, because you think it's fringe. You think it's not real. You might think it's like whatever.
So explain it. So what is this thing about the red heifers? Like, tell me, what the fuck? What is this?
Yeah. So supposedly the interpretation is that, again, interpretation, like, this is all just in my mind, like psychosis, fantasy, delusion. Interpretation is that the Old Testament says that you need 5 red cows, and they have to be untouched, and they have to be like pristine. They have to be
virgin.
Specifically, well, not only virgin, like no white hair. Like, it's very stupid. Like, it sounds as crazy as I'm saying it. Okay. So, and so they need these 5 red heifers in order to build their third temple and, fulfill some sort of prophecy and build that temple on Al-Aqsa Mosque. Of course, they have to do it, where there's already a Muslim site. But in order to do that, they're like, where are we going to get these red cows? And so in Texas, they are genetically modified these cows and have kept them in a certain way so that they are exactly what the quote interpretation of the Bible says. And they ship these cows over. And I think that's what one of the things, either Mike Huckabee or Mike Johnson or someone was over there in Israel, kind of presenting them with these cows, essentially, to be like, here are your red heifers, master. What else can I do for you? Like, okay.
This is so fucked up. It's so weird. It's unbelievable.
Because they're going to burn the cows, by the way, just so you know. They have to burn it's so stupid. Like, it sounds like I'm crazy. It makes me sound like completely delusional coming on your podcast. But please just look up 5 red heifers or 5 red cows, and you'll see what I'm saying is even lighter than actually what the prophecy is.
Okay. Listen, you kind of slightly dodged my question. Look, are all Gazans and Palestinians there Hamas crazy fundamentalist rabid Muslims? What are they like?
What are Palestinians like in general?
Yeah.
So I think that Palestinians in general love.
Because listen, because the narrative being pumped out is they're all Hamas, they're all terrorists. They're all terrorists, even though even most of them weren't born when Hamas came to power. They're terrorists. They're all terrorists. They're children of terrorists. And if they grow up, they're going to become terrorists. And we might as well kill them now. And they're all fundamentalists. They're all, gay hating, women hating, terrorists, monobrow, kill them, sand people. So what I'm trying to say is, can you build a picture of what they're actually like?
So obviously Palestinians are not a monolith, meaning whatever I say, I also don't want to kind of romanticize us as a people. Good. But I will say, what is it that being honest want? Then? Yeah. I will say what we want. We want to live in our home. We want all religions to be welcome and not be ruled by one religion. We want to go to school. We want to have careers. We want to have dreams. We want to have ambitions. We don't want to be told what road we can drive on. We don't want to be told what water source we can drink from. We don't want to be told when to farm our own olive groves. We don't want to be told when we can leave our cage in Gaza to go get medical help. We don't want to get permission anytime we want to travel. We don't want our airports bombed so we can't even travel. We don't want our kids to be killed and terrorized by IOF soldiers. We don't want 1 million Palestinians since 1967 to be taken hostage in prisons. We don't want our kids to have literally soldiers in schools. And we want to be able to pray where we want to and not pray if we don't want to. We want to be able to raise families, and we want the international community to finally see the injustice that is happening to us and to finally step in and to help us free our land.
Anti-Semitic.
Dude, I am I? Is that it? Is that I feel like I might be now at this point.
Like you just came out with the most beautiful, eloquent little speech, but it's like anti-Semitic, like whatever. Yeah. Right, Rolla, it's getting late here. I'm really super tired. I could actually talk to you for hours. I feel like you're a sister, like from another mother. I love you. I love you so much. And I have to say, listen, thank you so much for getting back to me so quickly. There's 2 types of people. I message some and I just don't hear anything from anyone ever. Like, it's quite funny. I had this guy on X. I reached out to him. I said, dude, I'd love you to come on my show. He went, yeah, sure. It took him ages to respond because he's busy. And then he comes out, he goes, how many listeners do you have? I was like, who cares about that? So I said, I got 2. I got my mom and me.
Yes, I love it.
I didn't hear back from him. So then after a month, I messaged again saying, I could make it 3. I think my friend might join in as well and listen. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is, like, with you, I messaged you and like you got back to me within hours, and I said, can you please just message me and let's have a chat on WhatsApp or Signal? And then you messaged me on WhatsApp, and then we had a lovely chat, and then we organized this podcast, and it's just brilliant. And it just goes to show you your nature and your personality, that you're out there, you're giving yourself out, you're open, you're giving your time. And I just want to say thank you, because honestly, a lot of people aren't like that. And you're just brilliant, because you were just so quick, on the ball, and freaking epic. And
Thank you.
like, you're so eloquent and funny and passionate. And I want people to see your channel. I'll put it up in the show notes. Like, you're a legend. And, you know, your background is a film director and a writer. I can see that you're very artistic and creative. And I hope, you know, you being anti-Semitic isn't going to stop you from getting work. Like, I don't know how it works out in your field and profession, but yeah, good luck. But anyway, I've got one final signature question if you don't have anything extra to say. Do you want to say anything extra before I ask the question?
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on, and it is an absolute pleasure, and I consider you my brother now. And yeah, anything you need, just let me know. And thank you to the audience for listening to me ramble as well. Appreciate it.
No, you're not rambling. It's brilliant. So listen, you're on your deathbed. Don't worry, don't freak out. It's a long, long time from now. All your loved ones are all around you, right? All of them, the Hamas terrorist sympathizers.
Greta Thunberg.
Greta Thunberg's. Everybody, they're all there. They're all there. Okay, some even have RPGs slung on their shoulders. You know, like, you know, some have got like suicide vests on. You know, typical Muslims. Anyway, they're all there in front of you. Like, before you go and meet your maker, what words of wisdom and advice would you give to all your loved ones?
Advice. I think it wouldn't, if Palestine is not free by then, I think the only thing, it wouldn't really be advice, but it would be for them to keep me a promise, and that is to keep speaking up, to keep representing Palestine until Palestine is free for us all. That is all I want. That is all I want.
Beautiful. Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
I, Ahmed Malik, am a private civilian protected by the Geneva Convention. My Substack, social media posts, and podcasts are my personal experiences, observations, and opinions. This information is for educational purposes only Although I am a doctor, I am not your doctor, and I am not providing medical or legal advice to you or to the wider public. I am not licensed or registered with the GMC or any other licensing board. The responsibility for the interpretation, due diligence, and use of the information from my Substack and my podcast lies with you, the viewer and or listener. Please do your research and use your discernment. It is not my intention to harass, intimidate, offend, defame, conspire, blackmail, coerce, or cause anxiety, alarm, or distress to any man or woman, and the information presented here is done so with peaceful and honourable intentions. Enjoy, folks.